My guest today is founder and CEO of KoshieO, a fashion brand that brings new life to everyday wear by combining ethnic inspired prints with contemporary designs. Nina Baksmaty Djamson was born and raised in Ghana, but now resides in the United States of America. And I must add that we were mates in the famous Achimota School here in Ghana. Nina shares her entrepreneurial journey on this episode of the Entrepreneur Speaks podcast. Welcome to my show, Nina.
Thank you, Kofi. Thank you for having me.
All right, then. So let's kick off our conversation by you telling us a bit more about yourself and how your childhood was like.
Yes. I really appreciate you, having me on your show. I was born in Ghana. My name is Nina, and I grew up in a family of, we were five. I had three brothers, a family of six. So I grew up with three brothers, and I was known as a tomboy. My mom was a seamstress, a fashion designer at that time. So I kind of, grew up around the sewing room and, patching things. And I must say, I wasn't very patient when it came to sewing because the needle would always prick me and stuff like that. But I guess I observed a lot growing up. Pertaining to what I do, this is a nutshell of what I can say about my childhood.
Okay, thank you so much. You studied biology at the university. So what fueled this shift from science to fashion?
Well, so when I got to university, I wanted to prove to myself that, I could excel in the sciences, but I didn't necessarily enjoy it, right? I love the competition. I love the fact that, I was getting, straight A's to an extent. I was doing well, and I just loved that. But it wasn't something that, I was finding myself. I was in college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But my dad is an engineer, but a businessman. And my mom is a seamstress and run like a small shop, business. So I grew up around business. And when I was in college, I didn't want to do business. I wanted to do something that I felt was more challenging to me at that time. But in the process of trying to earn some money in college, I decided to go buy some goods from New York City, and then I would come to the Midwest to sell. And I was making a killing doing that, right? I was very excited. And it wasn't so much the money. The money was encouraging, but I think it excited me more. And that was the journey in finding out that, wait a minute, this is what I want to wake up doing. But how do I sell my own product in the process? And the only thing that I knew how to do, or the only thing that I'd observed, and the only thing that I could get into was fashion at that time, you know. So that's how I got into it.
Oh, okay. Very, very interesting. Let's now talk about KoshieO, the KoshieO fashion brand. Tell us about the KoshieO brand and what you really do.
I know when it comes to fashion, people just see the ideology of clothes. They just see clothes, they just see fashionable items and stuff. But I actually use my brand to tell stories. And that is the basis of it. I'm selling you a dream with my brand. And I'm an African inspired luxury brand. And we can talk about this as we go on, but the bottom line is I'm painting pictures for people who don't have an idea of what Africa is. They don't have an idea of the richness and the culture and how we live, what we eat, what we do. So initially I was making clothes, but as I grew the brand. I realized it was more than just making clothes. It was telling stories in a positive light.
Very, very interesting. Um, you've given us a bit of background about KoshieO and what you do, but I believe there's indeed a story behind the whole setup of KoshieO. Can you tell us that story? We really want to know what's the story behind the setup of KoshieO.
I started about 12 years ago,
Oh, okay.
and when I started, I had no idea it was going to get to where it is now, right? I started by buying fabric from Makola. I would go to Ghana. Since my mom sewed, I would go and make designs with her, come back to the States, try and sell them. Friends and family would buy, but the how was I going to get in the stores? Like, how was my brand going to get out there? How am I going to walk down the street and see a stranger wear my clothes? So that is kind of the journey. Like, how are you going to make this happen from the beginning of the product to the end of the distribution line? And I learned a whole lot in the process, you know, and whilst building the brand. Most people would have that experience, like by working in a store, working under a fashion designer, or just being in the industry. But I was not in the industry, so it's something that I had to learn as I walked in the journey. And it took me a couple of years to even get production down, to get distribution. And it's a lot of work, but I was very passionate about it. So it wasn't like I was working, and had I known what it would take to get to where it is, I probably wouldn't have started, because it takes a lot. There's ups, there's down, there's up and down, in moments. There's just times that you feel like giving up, but the whole process, I guess maybe your question, I missed the question, to understand what you're asking. Like, do you want me to tell you the process from beginning to end, or?
No, but I think that is fine. That is fine. It gives us a very good feel of how this journey started and where you are now. So let me go on to my next question, and then we'll talk about processes later on in our conversation.
Okay.
So you've been in business for 12 years. How has the journey really been so far? Can you share some of the highlights with us?
Well, highlights. Well, in when I first started, what really gave me hope and what really pushed me to continue, I started flirting with the idea about 2009, getting fabric and stuff like that. And then I registered the company in 2010, you know, and then about 2012, I got to meet, this amazing lady who, she was like the Bible of fashion at that time. Her name was Franca Susani. She was the editor in chief of Vogue Italia at that time.
Okay.
And I met Franca, and it just kind of, I guess that was a moment when it confirmed that this was what I was supposed to do. I needed her in my life at that time, and because it kind of brought validation to what I was starting, the seeds that I was sowing, in the industry, just brought some kind of validation. So I think that was when I was like, wait a minute, I think this is what I'm supposed to. And she was very encouraging when I met her and I did some work with her, and then she ordered some stuff for me. And then all of a sudden, my name was all over the place. All the blogs were picking up my name. This is someone whose son now is married to Anna Wintour's daughter. Anna Wintour is like I think she's the editor in chief of Vogue in the US, right? She's much more prominent, but Franca's son. So you just have to understand what I saw and what, like who I spent time with to be able to come to this conclusion. So that was one highlight, and then I had other personal highlights. I had my kids and stuff like that. It's another highlight. I wouldn't call it a highlight. I guess um I'll call it progress, right? Was when I did some leg work, and because one day Franca called me, and there was a dress that she had me wear when I was pregnant, and put me in Vogue Italia in that dress. And she called me one day, and she was like early in the morning, like, she said, Nina, can I have 1,000 pieces of that dress? And I was like, 1,000 pieces? Like, I just got that fabric in Makola. Like, where am I going to get 1,000 pieces from? So that's when I started to think, like, how not to miss this kind of opportunity, because she didn't come asking for 20, 30 pieces. She asked for a
Thousand.
thousand pieces, and this was just the beginning, right? So I knew that I had to get the production on lockdown. I know in Ghana we do things a little different. Um, First of all, you can't have 1,000 pieces of one garment in Ghana because it's very small. You just have a small sect of people that can also afford, and then you have people meeting each other in the outfit, right? So I think the process in Ghana is a little different. The peers that I started with seem seem on the surface to have almost, you know, gained more attention and traction and more notoriety, right? And it's because of how the system is. Like in America, I'm just another black woman. It's like, when I come to Ghana, I see the classism and all that. It's not like that here. It's like once you walk out of the door, you're just another black woman. They don't care what you've achieved, and so it's a little different, in trying to prove yourself and trying to get into the industry. Your product has to really speak for you. Your product has to speak for you. Yeah.
So you've had a very exciting journey so far, but I believe, like we all face, there are challenges along the line. There've been some down moments. Can we now spend some time you talking about some of the challenges you faced so far in business?
Yeah. Well, production is never an easy thing. When you sourced out a product, and it comes and it's not up to par, right? And you spend so much money to get that idea and that concept together. So that was a challenge, but it's no longer a challenge because we've been doing it for so long that we know what are the do's and the don'ts. Um, Another thing that is challenging is really getting your name out there. Um, I realized that sometimes making the products and producing the stuff and making the clothes and the accessories, making all that is not really, it's something that I like to do. I like to design. It's not so much of a hurdle. Even producing and paying money is not so much of a hurdle. I think the biggest challenge is getting your name out there, getting people to hear about your brand. I think that is what is very expensive. That is where the expense comes in, right? So that is always a hurdle. That is a challenge, because when you're in America, like you are on the world stage. So, like I said, it's a little different. Nobody cares about you. Nobody respects you. My father is this and that. It doesn't work here, So, so your product has to speak for itself. You have to be in the industry. You have to keep on pushing, and sometimes people can tend to give up, but I mean, we keep on pushing, and we're getting the brand, in places that we never dreamed that we would be. So I guess I'm grateful for that. you know
Um, so you've talked about some of the challenges and you've been on this journey for some time. I'm sure there's been a lot of lessons you've picked up. Can you share some of these lessons with us?
Well, one thing I picked up on was faith, because you need faith to take this kind of bold step. Like fear cannot come in place. So one thing I picked up was faith. Another thing that I picked up was humility, right? It's something that my mom has always been the kind that, she was humble. She grew up, she's a woman of faith and all that. But it's not something that I took very seriously. But I think it's the biggest thing for me. I know people see the glitz and the glamour and they see the stuff that you are doing, but I think the faith, the humility, and being content with yourself, and those are the life lessons that and that I've learned on this journey. Um, and then I've also picked up a lot of stuff like I realized that I'm really, really good at branding. I'm really good at strategizing businesses. Because I've been doing it. I've been doing it, for a long time. I realized that was also a gift that I had. I have an eye for things. So, I mean, I have people that want to start, pepper business, whatever. I'm able to put concepts together very, very quickly and help them out with it. So on the personal level, learn faith and humility. On the other side, I've really learned what it takes to grow a brand and to start a business. So it's something that I love to do on the side, pro bonally. I just enjoy doing it. So that would say that's something that I've picked up.
All right. So Nina, tell me, what really motivates you to do all that you're doing? Where do you draw your inspiration for?
Honestly, um, I don't know if there's an answer to that, but recently I kind of understood. When I was little, I always knew I was going to do something that was going to put me on a world stage, right? On a world map. I just didn't know what it was, right? So it takes me back to the issue of God. Like when he makes you, he makes everyone very special. Like we all have our special thumbprints. He makes everyone very special. And whatever you are supposed to come and do in this world, he puts it inside of you. And you hear, the likes of Oprah and all these people going back to this basic thing of this still small voice inside of you, right? It's like it's something when you say you sound silly. It's something when you say, oh, let's not go there. We're talking business. But the truth is, there's just this still small voice that kept me going, that kept pushing me. So I guess I found I found my purpose, and this was what I was supposed to do. But it's much bigger than just making clothes, right? It's supposed to be able to help others and pick others up. I haven't even seen half of the journey yet, because you always see the end, but you don't see the process and the journey of it. So not to sound weird or out of place, but it's just how do I know? It's just something inside me that pushes me every day.
Hmm. All right then. So we're going to look at some of the things you offer your clients or customers. Is it possible for us to see some of the things you do at KoshieO?
Yes, well, I brought a scarf.
Okay.
So I do have these scarves that I make, and it's actually this is actually a painting. So I have customers that actually frame these
Oh,
scarves.
okay. Very interesting.
I don't know if you can see.
Yes, I can see it. Yes.
Yes, so so we do have a process where it's kind of we do have paintings that are hand painted.
Oh,
And
really?
then we transfer it onto the silk fabric. And the process of transfer is very, very expensive. This is not just any silk scarf. And how you can tell the difference in a quality scarf and the not is the feel of the fabric one. And then also the print is like this is the back of the scarf.
Okay.
So the print, the front and the back almost look the
Same,
same,
yes.
right? If you see something that's printed as not quality, you see that the back will be white,
Mm.
right? But when the front and the back is the same, that's how you are able to tell the quality in the printing. And then it's also hand stitched.
Okay.
It's hand stitched. So this is one item that we have. And then I do have a men's line. Actually started with women's, but the men's picked up really, really fast.
Oh, okay.
I guess men were easier to sell to, So I'm actually now working on my women's line again, but I do have shirts. I've never had to actually do this on TV on recording before, right?
Yeah.
I usually do it one on one, but basically the biggest way to tell a quality shirt will be
Mm.
the stitching of the shirt. So basically, in like an inch of a shirt, like an inch of where the stitching is, right? You should be able to count about maybe 16 to 21 stitches to tell that it's a quality shirt, that it's not going to come apart.
Ah,
Yes. So if you are buying a quality shirt, you look at it, you take an inch of it, and then you count the stitches. If it's less than, let's say, 15 stitches, it's not a quality shirt. So those are some of the details that we take. We create most of the fabrics ourselves. And um, this is a kente print that we did ourselves. We just added a twist to it, and then we print it onto very high cotton fabric.
all right. Then.
So basically,
I still
a
want
lot
us
of detail.
I still want us to look at it some more. So if you can raise it just as you raised the scarf,
Okay,
if you can raise it up for us to admire it some
okay,
more.
so we do have like a KoshieO red button
Okay.
on all our
All
shirts.
right.
Yes, yeah, and then the collar. One thing about our shirts is we have a hidden button in the collar. So the collar stays when you wear your shirt. It doesn't like fly all over the place because of the hidden button under the collar.
Okay.
So we have that. And then the design, this I call this the woman dance shirt because it's like it's a print with women, like African dance. And
Oh, okay. Very,
we have the trim as well
very okay.
on the arm. Can fold the arm. So it's basically African wear, but very well made. It can be put next to Ted Baker, if not even better, right? Because they have become such big brands that sometimes they go down on some of the quality of the fabrics and stuff that they use, but we see it, right? But the quality, the fit is what sells my products. You can get, I have to sometimes convince someone to get a shirt, especially when I started, and then they come back and buy 10. I never have, hey, apart from one or two difficult customers, you know, over the span of 12 years. Um, I think that we go based on the reviews and how people feel about the products.
All right, then let's now talk about a little bit of processes. So roughly how much time does it take to produce a shirt like you just showed us?
So I said it all depends. Sometimes I source out fabric, right? But most of my prints are original made in house. So if we have to work on a print, I have some specialized print like the Adinkra Rising. where we have the adinkra at the bottom of the shirt and then to the top. So basically, there are some prints that we create, and it takes months to get the print together because I get the idea in my head. And we have a new one we had one that was adinkra and paisley mixed, but we've done a second generation adinkra paisley, which is much better. And we just did adinkra and krobo beads print. That's not out yet. So I just kind of come up with these, crazy ideas, that nobody has done. And then I get my team together and we just, sometimes I wake up in the morning, I sketch the idea roughly, like this is what I'm looking for. And we just build on that. So that just to get the print can take maybe 3 to 6 months, depending on, yes, just get the print can take 3 to 6 months because I'm very fussy. So we keep on having to review it, you know. And then to go into printing and sampling, that will be another 6 weeks. And then to go into production, once you have the sample, the production can take another 8 weeks, depending on how fast it is. But to come up with the concept could be a year. But once we have the design, to get it on the market is like 6 weeks.
Wow, that's very extensive. I was looking at some of your products on your website, and I came across your logo. You have a very unique logo. Kindly tell us a bit more about the KoshieO logo. I saw that as very unique. Please tell us about your logo.
Well, it was it's basically a silhouette of a woman with a baby on her back and a basket on her head. So if you've been to any parts of Africa, I guess some parts of India and stuff, if you've been to any part of Africa, you have seen that in real life where women carry load on their head and the baby on the back. And it was very symbolic. Well, how I decided to make it my logo, I have to thank my husband for that. Because I did a t-shirt and I had done a silhouette like that and called it a KoshieO t-shirt. So it was like the KoshieO, and I had a description on it. And my husband was like, that should have to be your logo. I was like, really? So that was, we had done a t-shirt. I had come up with a concept. I saw a woman carrying a baby. I wanted to do a t-shirt like that, and it eventually became my logo. But that was kind of like the process,
Okay.
you know.
Okay. Very, very interesting. So we are all faced with our new.
Well, before you go on, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you, but
That's fine. That's fine.
the what also makes that logo important is um women in general, we have to be adept at doing so many things at the same time. So it's kind of symbolic as well. Like I was a working mother, so that's carrying the baby on the back, having the load on the head, and we have to be adept at doing all these things. So I think it also embodies that kind of message. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, no, but that's fine. That's fine. It's all part of the conversation. It makes it rich. Um, so we are all confronted with COVID-19, and
Yes.
we are all trying to adapt to it because it looks like it might be with us for quite some time. Um, how has it been like operating within this COVID-19 period? Has it boosted or hindered your operations in any way? Share your COVID experience with us.
Well, COVID COVID has done a lot when it comes to my business. I would say that initially it looked like it had hindered, because we were actually in about 30 stores, and we were looking to expand, and we had got some more stores like to get product in 2019. We had got some more stores that we were supposed to distribute product to this in 2024. We had just started a relationship, so we were looking to almost double, triple our numbers by the end of 2020. But with the stores closing down, that side of the business slowed down, right? It put a stop at. But I guess I was also very lucky, because a lot of my peers and counterparts and stuff, they got orders. They got orders in 2019, end of 2019, that we were supposed to deliver in February. And when they got the orders, it's like after they had ordered, they in Neiman's and all these stores were like, we're not taking the orders because of the lockdown and all that. So they lost a lot of money, right? So that saved me, because I had just made the connections with the new retailers, and I was supposed to, all said and done, I was supposed to distribute to them in 2019 fall, not spring. So I guess I was very, very lucky in that sense, because you can't go manufacture hundreds and thousands of dollars of products and then they're going to tell you that we can't take it. I mean, that will collapse a small business like mine. So I think I was lucky in that respect. But even though distributing to the stores slowed down, my online picked up. Like my online picked up, radically, like, to keep up with the orders and, with the shipping and all that. So I guess that was the positive side of it. It made me pay more attention to online, and because before COVID, one thing about being a black designer, right, or being considered African American, is that there are so many battles that you have to fight, right? There are so many battles that you have to fight. And just for instance, being at the show, just being a black woman, my product is already seen as inferior. So a lot of people will hire, a lot of people will hire Caucasians into their booth, because they don't want you to see their product as inferior. So you're already kind of battling that, right? But something happened where George Floyd and all these things went on, and people started to realize and focus that, wait a minute, maybe there's some kind of systemic racism that is going on that is affecting small business from coming up. Then when they looked at it, the ratio, I think there was a very low percentage of black designers that you would find in major retail stores and stuff like that. So now there's a movement where they have to have at least 15% of their vendors as black. But we didn't have all this opportunity. So even getting into those 30 stores was like a fight. Whereas my colleagues is much easier, right? My colleagues that are, Caucasian or even French or whatever. So um, that that has been a challenge, right?
All right, then we're just about wrapping up our conversation. But I'm sure there are young men, young women who are thinking of starting a career in fashion. So what would be your advice to someone with that desire to begin a career in fashion?
Well, first of all, you have to really, really. I mean, a lot of people rush to go into production and then to get the stuff out there. But you have to really, really think about, who do you want to sell to? Who do you want your audience to be? What do you think they are going to like? Right? Those are big questions that you need to ask yourself. And then once you are able to understand who your audience is, Then you go into your logo, right? Because if your audience, you didn't think it through and you started making shirts and you realized that I should have been working with kids instead, that means you didn't take that time to think through of what you really wanted to do, right? So you can't have a logo that looks for an adult and then be doing kids clothes 3 years down the line, so this is what I'm talking about. So you have to think about the categories and you know who your audience is and kind of build from there. And then you go with the logo, because the logo is very important, because once you do the logo, you can get the labels and the print. So when anytime you do a sample, they put the label in there. So that is like a step by step process to get it right without having to spend so much money. Because if, for instance, the shirt, is it a batakari you're wearing?
Yes.
So, for instance, I made that batakari just to rush to do a sample, right? And then I didn't put my logo in. That means I don't have the things. So do I wait to, like you have to get certain things in place. And then also you can use social media. You can use social media to build a hype. And then also you can go into production. You can go into um, you go into sampling first. So you get your sample, you see how it is, you see how it fits. You can get a few people telling you what they think about it, and then you go into production. But I think you need to get these things in place before you even start thinking of sewing.
Okay. All right.
Where you get your fabrics, like you have to get you have to streamline the production, streamline your fabric, streamline your buttons, streamline all this, so you have your sources where you can go to for every item to come together.
All right. Then before I ask my last question, if you were to start all over again, right? What would you do different?
Well, I think that if I were start over, I would have interned with a designer
Okay.
instead of thinking that I could do it myself. I would have worked at a retail store instead of thinking, because in every department there's a language and there's a way to do things. And if you look at the story, I don't know if you know Tory Burch. She's an American designer and very very major, right? And her story, like I might not get it 100%, but basically she worked for, after school she didn't know what to do, so her mom had a friend designer that she worked with. She worked with him for a bit, and then she worked for, I think, this lady who is now big in one of these magazines, right? Maybe Style or one of those magazines. And she worked for that lady for a while, and then she went to work for Ralph Lauren. And when she worked for Ralph Lauren, I think she was working in his PR area. And one of her friends who she was working with together at Ralph Lauren said she was setting out to go start her own fashion brand. So a few years later, that friend calls her and is like, "Hey, I need you to come and do my PR with me." Guess who that friend was? That friend was Vera Wang, who is one of the biggest designers when it comes to bridal wear. So she worked with Vera, and then after that, she started Tory Burch. So just think of all this information that she had, and she, when it comes to branding, when it comes to publications, when it comes to design, she had worked with a designer, she had worked with a magazine, she had worked with, and then she had seen her friend build a brand from ground up. So when she started her brand, it's like, where did this woman come from, right? But it wasn't so much of that, it's the experience. So that's one thing that I wish that I had done, or I had the opportunity to do, was to shadow under someone.
Okay. 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 All right then. So before we sign off, what will be your last words and pieces of advice for our listeners?
Well, if you feel something in your heart that you want to do it, just jump and do it. Don't be afraid. Don't let fear stop you, because we've all gone through those motions. And if you feel, I think a lot of people are afraid to really say out what they want to do. Like you ask somebody, what do you want to do? Like, hey, oh, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be this and I want to be that. But it sometimes some of the things someone wants to be a comedian, some of the things that they want to do, they feel so foolish to say it. But yeah, I like to encourage young people to just do what you like, what you are feeling inside, what's egging you on inside. You should have the courage to do it, because you never work a day in your life and you would not regret it. So that's one advice that I'll give to people. Don't let fear overtake you. All these people that you see that are successful, Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, and all these people, they started in their garages. And when they were doing what they were doing, I'm sure they had people telling them that they were being foolish, right? So that's one advice as an entrepreneur, seeing how doors have opened, seeing how small I started, and now I'm sitting in places with retailers that I never ever knew, or people, working in fashion magazines that I never ever knew would even, I would even have a connection with in any shape or form. But I started from Makola with $100, so don't be afraid. Even if you don't have the money, I didn't have the money, but for some reason, doors of opportunities, every stage that you need to get to, doors of opportunities open. So that's one advice that I would give, a heartfelt one. That's one thing that I'll tell any person that's on the come up.
All right then. So thank you so much, Nina Baksmaty Djamson, for sharing your rich journey with us today on the Entrepreneur Speaks podcast. We wish you the very best.
Thank you so much, Kofi, for having me. I'm so grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. So this has been another exciting episode of the Entrepreneur Speaks podcast. I'll come your way next time with another exciting episode. I remain your host, Kofi Animedu. As always, let's stay safe and continue to keep hope alive. Cheers.
Thank you.